welcome to the Alignment Podcast. I'm your host, John Stringer. Good to have you back. Today, we have an incredible guest who I'm honored to bring on. We have incredible guests all the time, and this is no exception. She is an amazing inspiration. I've seen her work firsthand, and I'm very grateful for that. And she's a pioneer in the field of holistic healing and a beacon of hope for sensitive souls everywhere. Her name is Dr. Karen Khan. 23 years ago, Dr. Khan's life took an unexpected turn, about 23 years ago, maybe more, when she experienced burnout, leading to fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, this challenging period became a catalyst for profound personal growth and transformation. And in just 2 years or so, she healed herself through nutrition, emotional well-being, spiritual practices, and ignited a passion to help others on their healing journeys. So Dr. Khan is a #1 international best-selling author of 5 books, including Sensitivity is Your Superpower. She's been featured on Biography TV, PBS's Discoveries in Alternate Medicine, and in the movie The Inside Effects. Let's go! Dr. Khan is the creator of the TOLPAKAN Healing Method, and she combines quantum physics with modern mystery school spirituality to help sensitive souls harness their intuitive healing and manifesting superpowers. So working with her is like tapping into a spiritual supercomputer where she serves as the Yoda of the healing world, training you to become a Jedi master of your own well-being. So get ready for an enlightening conversation with none other than Dr. Karen as we explore the power of sensitivity, holistic healing, in unlocking your potential. Welcome, Dr. Karen. Welcome. Woohoo, woohoo.
Thank you so much, John. So glad to be here. Appreciate the invite. It's always wonderful to spend time with you.
Likewise, dear sister. So my question always for every guest, including you, is really simple. Alignment. I call it alignment with source. What does alignment mean to you?
Yes, so I love this question, and mine and your definition is very, very similar. So alignment means to me is that we are connected to the source within, that who we really are shines through and we're able to express that. When we're not aligned is often how people know that there's a difference, is when we feel disconnected, we feel like life isn't working for us and everything's a drudgery. When we are aligned with ourselves, with source, with the source within, our highest selves, then things start to become easier, synchronicities happen, and life starts to flow in a beautiful dance. And we just start having a heck of a lot of fun.
Love it. Thank you, dear sister. So on your journey, when did you start discovering alignment? When did you, in this incarnation, we'll call it, begin to awaken to that there's something more? What led to that for you?
Well, I think that a lot of us, and I'm no exception, require contrast. So I needed to have the severe contrast in order to get to that place of even recognizing that something was out of whack. I was doing everything that I thought I was supposed to do, get good grades, be top of the class, medical school, study hard, be a good student, be a good spouse, be a good child to my parents, be a good sibling, be a good, everything, right? And then, I was kind of trying to be everything to everyone because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to give. I was told in, church that it's better to give than to receive. So I just get giving until I had nothing else to give, got burnt out, then ended up with all those different disease names that is unfortunately too popular these days: fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, multiple chemical sensitivities, EMS sensitivities, and on and on and on. And John, to be perfectly honest, as a medical doctor, we don't like patients like that. No. When we
You
see their
became your worst
name,
nightmare as a
yes,
patient,
definitely.
huh?
Usually when we see their name, this is the reaction of the staff. Yeah, we don't, of course, patients don't know that, but they probably feel it on an etheric level. But yeah, no, we couldn't stand people like that before. Me not so much because I was super empathetic. But usually the staff is like, "Oh, so and so's coming in, watch out!" Right? And it would be a very draining experience.
Right, right.
They were so out of alignment, and then I became so out of alignment, and yeah, I got to the point where I felt like I was going to kill myself. And then us doctors know sneaky ways of doing that, and the spouse could still get the insurance claim policy, right? It got to that point, but luckily, in the sobbing, in the tears, in the wanting to give up, there seemed to be a little voice that just kept repeating the same thing over and over again, just very gently, very lovingly. You have a choice. And I kept arguing with it, of course. It felt like my voice, but I'm like, who is this? You have a choice. It kept saying, you have a choice, you have a choice. And I was like, ah, what do you mean? I don't have a choice. I have to do this. I have to do that. It's my obligation to do this. I committed to do this. And I would just argue with this voice. And one night in the throngs of being sad and crying and, trying to muffle my tears so my then husband wouldn't wake up, I finally was like, okay, well, what would I do if I had a choice, right? And the answer was to get a divorce. Oh, that was painful. That was really painful. I didn't want to admit it. I wanted to keep going. I wanted to fix it, right? And I thought, yeah, if I really did have a choice, I would get a divorce. And then that was pivotal because I decided in that moment I was going to choose to live. If I did have a choice, and this is what spirit, then I didn't understand what it was, but was something was calling me to make this choice. I could have kept planning my death or do this. So yeah, so this contrast was really helpful because I was so out of alignment. It was crazy. And I'm sure my angel team, God team, years before that, had the little knock, knock, knock on the door. You're out of alignment. Knock, 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 a little louder. You're out of alignment. Knock, 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 knock. Seriously, you're out of alignment, right? And then finally they're like, okay, angels, get that 2x4. She ain't listening.
Nah, right.
Yeah, so I had to get super sick, super drained, and then I couldn't do anything. I was just exhausted. Day in, day out, I slept for 14 hours, barely made it. I was the sole breadwinner at the time, so I went to work, came back, exhausted, slept for 14 hours and did it all over again and just had a miserable life. So the lack of alignment and misalignment was this huge contrast for me to decide, do I want to keep doing this or not? So some people do require that. Call me a slow learner, call me, call me the bamboo that takes 10 years to even peek out of the ground and then, shoot up. I'm like the bamboo. I was pretty dense. I wasn't getting the message. And so my guardian team really had to, was like, wow, she is not getting it. So they had to really put on the drama here for me to pay attention. And when I did, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, to be honest. People go,
So
what?
beautiful.
I'm like, yeah, getting sick was the best thing that ever happened to me at that point. More things have happened since then, but it was amazing, that transformation.
And so as you begin to awaken to that, okay, you have this choice, what would you say was the biggest turning point to harnessing your power? What was the earliest, once you got sick and you're like, okay, I have this choice, all of a sudden you start to see, oh wait, there's hope. What was the turning point for you?
Well, I'm going to give some credit to a spiritual teacher. There was at the Omega Institute a teacher, Jana Van Zandt, who you probably know well. She had this giving from a full cup was the course. It was a weekend course, small group, maybe 30 people at the most. And I had no idea what I was getting into. Are you kidding me? No clue. Had I known, I probably wouldn't have signed up. I think I cried the whole weekend. But it was so transformational that at the end of that, I really did own that I did have a choice. That obligation, that feeling of I have to do something, that it's not that it was gone, but it was a lot quieter, right? And so I just kept coming from this place of what if I did have a choice? What would I choose? if I didn't feel all this obligation, which my family's really good at, obligation, what would I do? And so I kept kind of putting my toe in. Of course, the divorce was a big deal, because, it was like backlash, right away. But I kept thinking, well, I could live or I could die, and I'm not desiring to continue living the way I'm living. So I either check out, or I learned to, really tune in to what it is that my heart desires, even if it's not popular to people. So I think that given the support, I think we all need mentors, to some degree, especially in that dramatic period where we're just lost in our own stuff. And I needed Iyanla for that, and that really opened me up. And then therefore, I just kept attracting other spiritual teachers, other guidance, other courses, other things that kept opening me up and got me closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to that alignment. So that was not an overnight process. One of my missions is for our sensitive souls to get that sooner rather than later. So you and I, of course, have developed processes around that to help people align much, much faster and easier, because I don't desire that people have to suffer and get suicidal, before they make that shift.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, and I'd love to get to the, what do you call it? The experiences that help us recognize, and I don't know if everybody goes through this, but I know you have. That's why I'm asking about it. I know I have. Where we go through these transcendent experiences that that just dispel the uncertainty in one sense, where we have an experience, like some people call them peak experiences or what have you, but we have this experience that lets us know, wait a minute, there is more than I've been limiting myself to believe about life or about myself or about the power of the whatever it is. Those things are what I believe are these moments to help us interrupt the pattern of limited conditioned thinking, right? So I'm wondering, were there any early or moments like that for you to kind of interrupt, or maybe even after you started choosing differently, to help you realize, this limited idea of what you thought you were or life was not the case? Did you have any experiences like that?
Wow, what a fantastic
there may be multiple,
question,
but I'm thinking
right?
of early ones.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people really want those peak experiences. Like, when I read Eckhart Tolle's book, or Byron Katie, the work, and it's Louise Hay, I'm like, wait, one day, well, maybe not Louise Hay, but like one day you're like down and out, like in a halfway house, drunk out of your mind. The next day you wake up enlightened. How can we all have that, please? Well, then again, I wouldn't want that life necessarily, right? Because yeah, I think that unlike several others, I don't think that peak experience was like, some people go and they have an ayahuasca trip, right? And they're like, opened up, and it's like life has changed, and they get a divorce, and they change houses, and they move, like all that kind of stuff. For me, it was these incremental little baby steps. And so it wasn't anything huge. Like, I would love to be able to tell you, John, this 8-foot angel just appeared on my doorstep, right? Archangel Michael, and he told me some stuff. No, most of the time I joke, because I'm like, my angels go, yeah, I know, she wants us to speak in English, but it doesn't work that way. So one of the things I did want to share, though, is the possibility that there was something other than this 3D material world that is real. So that was that mini, like, what, right? So my first spiritual teacher, she started talking about like guides and different things. She did Reiki on me. She was very intuitive. And during this one session, I was in the middle of recovering from my fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, which, by the way, 2 years is very fast to recover from that. Most people do not recover ever. So I'm on this table, she's doing this thing, and she's like, wow, and afterwards she's like, well, this is very interesting. I'm getting that, you have thousands upon thousands of ancestors looking to you, to make a difference or to shift the entire lineage. And I was like, okay, I haven't really thought about China and thought about like ancestors really like, into that. Like, it's a left brain doctor, right? So I was like, okay. And then she said, but I'm also getting a picture of the stairs, that it's one baby step at a time. So yes, you have this humongous mission, right? But you have to take what is in front of you one baby step at a time. And of course, I left that session going, really? I have no idea what that means, right? But it just seeded in my consciousness. It seeded like, I don't know how that happened, right? And then I went to another pivotal event, which is the Body Code 3.0. The first time it was live with Dr. Bradley Nelson, his beautiful family. And he introduced the idea of entities, so low vibrational spirits that may be interfering with someone's health. Like, he's a retired doctor of chiropractic, right? So, I mean, he had a lot of credibility with me, and his emotion code really, really worked. So I'm here to learn the up-leveled body code, and he starts talking about ghosts, right? And demons and things like that. I think half the room wanted to run away. I'm one of the weirdos going, really? Huh? Right? So I came forward. I was like, wow. And he told some stories, and I was like, that is so cool. Now, of course, I'm one of these weirdos that like used to love horror movies. Like in medical school, us medical school people would get together and watch The Night of the Living Dead together. Yeah, and then we would start laughing because it's like, ha ha, he can't do that because he doesn't have muscles around his spine. There's no way he would move, right? Like, yeah, us medical students totally
That's
nerded
so
out.
funny.
Yeah, so then I started really going, I wonder, right? I started checking myself. I started checking my patients and clients, and lo and behold, there was some pretty weird stuff going on. Sometimes past life stuff. For me, I was having very intense menstrual cramps, like more than ever before. Nothing I did was helping. Like, I was using patches, I was using magnesium and fish oil and all the things that normally would work, and it just and it was after my miscarriage that this happened. And then I read one of these really, really long, books on entities, which was not that helpful. But at the time, they talked about soul fragments. So not the whole like being, but a fragment. And then I was testing myself and found that there was a soul fragment of my miscarriage still attached to my ovary. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's use Dr. Brad's method. And no, he didn't talk about fragments, but, I used the same method to remove that piece back to, the light. Some people will call it back to the wholeness. And lo and behold, the pain went completely gone. Like, no cramps. And I mean, ever since then, the menstrual cycle was amazing. And then now I don't have it, but it was amazing. I was like, wow, I wish I found this stuff out before. So those kind of healings, and then doing the healing on my clients, right? And all these, and some of the weirdest stuff, like past life stuff, generational curses. And I had a Akashic Records reading, and she said something about all of China and my ancestors. And that was it. She did not know the first healer.
About the other one, right?
Yes, and it just all came for a circle. I'm like, oh, I get it. Because I'm like, how am I supposed to heal thousands of ancestors? Seriously, right? But then I got it, because this whole thing, all the learnings, Kaizen approach, right? A little bit. Finally, I came back here and go, I get it now. I can do it. I can do it, and I can do it quickly. So now I have my own healing methodology, the TOLPAKAN Healing Method you mentioned earlier, and we can, align. That's our first step is align. Then we use divine muscle testing. We ask quality questions. And then, for example, we can just ask, is there anything generational that's ready to heal right now? Now, it could be a curse, it could be a vow, a contract, a pattern, a shock, a trauma, like genocide, something like that. And we can remove and delete that energy. So align, ask, and then activate those healing energies. And it can be done quantumly fast, instantaneous. And people feel a shift right away, if they're body aware anyway. So it doesn't have to require 10 years of therapy or anything like that. So I have healed my ancestors. They're pretty much done, and moved on to other things.
Beautiful. And what I find amazing is much like what you were saying, your journey, these incremental steps, that what you experienced, the proof was in the pudding. Meaning you tried them, you experienced a difference, and then you've been working with others who are experiencing those differences. What I thankfully my wife has worked with you before in a group setting and experienced a difference immediately after, which is beautiful. So I know firsthand through her that what you do works. Also, knowing you and having been blessed to work with you, love seeing what you do. What is amazing to me is the entity side. Like that whole concept was new to me. It's like, wow, okay, it makes sense. I mean, like, but that kind of work. I guess my question is, what has surprised you about that work? What has been like a aha or like, wow, okay, this is how this works, and what has it taught you about yourself, maybe, working with the entities and etc.
Oh, I love this question. In fact, I recently just launched a masterclass called Loving the Darkness into the Light.
Hmm.
Um, in the past, clearing, we have movies about it, not so great movies like The Exorcist and other things. And all you see is people being traumatized, over and over and over again. And the entities are so strong and they're, so evil and all these kinds of things. And when I learned about entities from Dr. Brad, I came with it with more curiosity than fear. I kind of liked horror movies, growing up. So I was one of these weirdos. Like I said, half the other class wanted to run out the door because they didn't want to know, right? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. They're not real. They're not real. But I was more like, this is very curious. So for me, I'm like an experimenter or investigator. So I just investigate like what's going on. And one of the pivotal things, and coming back to like what I learned about me, it's really around that oneness. If I am feeling like this entity is bad, they need to go away, right? Stop doing that nasty stuff that you're doing, right? And there's this energy of hate or energy of at least annoyance, right? Irritability. It reminds me of the movie, the what's it called? The Lost Boys. And no, that's not it. Anyway, there was a book way back when, right? Like really, really old book. Like the kids are on the island, they're just boys, right? And according to the story, I mean, they're just like kind of nasty to each other. They have a hierarchy and there's like danger.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the book. Anyway, and I don't know if that would be true, right? Maybe now I realize that, you know what? That's a story. And perhaps the opposite is true. And we're being conditioned to think that everyone's going to go to a war state in scarcity. But I think evidence is coming more and more to the forefront, realizing that when people are in trouble, people want to help each other. And so that's actually a myth, and that's actually been programmed into us, unfortunately, right? Like when Fukushima hit and with, like different things in Japan, for example, they have a very different culture. And instead of everyone being conditioned to, like here in America, to loot stores when there is some sort of dramatic event where they film people like crashing things into the store owners and then they're stealing TVs and stealing stuff. What do they do in Japan? They line up very peacefully and they help each other out in the midst of massive, like damage, right, to their community, and they take turns. Nobody stole anything. Like, it's like, wow, what a thought. So for me, it was very pivotal when I didn't know I had held a bias, a judgment when it came to entities. And it was programmed in, from our society. They're bad, they're doing bad things. And yeah, there's some things we don't like to do. But like that movie or that book, if you have a bunch of lost boys that don't have a mom, right, that only know whatever they know, and they hurt each other, they're quote unquote bad, what do they really need? Is it punishment? I don't think so. What they need is love. And, through love, teaching. So, but I had to learn it away. You couldn't have just told me, Carrie, you need to love the entities. I'm like, right. But I really got it that you're going to like the story, I think, John. So this one day, I'm clearing entities back, left, right, and center. And sometimes, at the beginning, it was slightly scary because I wouldn't know when things would pop up, like the lights would flicker, and then I'm like, who's there? I'm muscle testing. Oh, it's so-and-so's father who passed over. I'm like, what do you want? Right. all the kind of stuff. Because I'm not clairvoyant out here. I don't see them here. I see them in my mind, and then I'm also testing answers. It was very interesting. And then one day we are, James and I, my husband, was driving down after skating. The windows were open. It was nice and warm. And there was a car in front of us with a interesting license plate, like a custom license plate. So I kind of leaned forwards trying to read it. And I heard the answer back here, which was very strange. I turn and look, and there's obviously nobody in the back of my car, but also the windows are down, and there's no one that could have said that. And I said, James, did you hear that? And he goes, yes. And I was like, wonder what this is. So I'm, trying to figure out where the voice came from. I thought, well, is it a ghost? I mean, they're not really allowed in the car. My angel team usually just clears my car for me. I don't have to ask them. They just do it automatically, right? It's not. It's a demon. And I'm like, why is there a demon in the backseat, right? So it's like I'm having this side conversation with my angels, and they're just not saying anything. They're just not really telling me. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm talking to the demon. So I'm like, okay, usually I just like heal them and they're gone. But I didn't realize I had this bias. So when I did ask, like, hey, so why are you here? The answer was the angels told me to come. And I was like, and I, like, on the one hand, annoyed at my angels, and the other hand, intrigued, like, heal the demon. They don't know me. I'm just like go-between, right? So I thought, this is interesting. Why would they tell him to come? And then it dawned on me. I went to stillness, did the alignment exercise, right? And I was like, wait a second. If it came to me, it must be the angels want me to learn something. So, well, I'm just going to treat the demon as a client. See what happens, right? So I start, testing as if the demon's my client, and realize that there was some sort of, it's not the right word for it, generational energy or curse, for lack of a better term, that were binding a whole contingent of demons. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I can fix that. So I'm like, okay. So so we did the healing. Then the demon went to the next part of the spiritual journey. The light score went up, and that was the end of that. But I realized that the angels wanted me to experience that because I had bias. I had bias. Them bad, me good. Spiritual battle, warrior. Good versus evil, and that is not the new world, as you know. We are all one. So if we're all one, that means. And if God created everything, the source created everything, that includes demons. Excuse me, but they're part of the one. They're just having a fractal of the oneness experience as a demon. I'm having a fractal experience, as part of the oneness as a human. So we're all playing this dance in this game, and therefore I dropped the bias. I dropped the good versus evil. I dropped the fight finally, because I was very good at fighting. I dropped the fight and thought, it's all about evolving. And sometimes, like bad little children, so-called bad little children, they do things that I don't like. And it's not okay, right? And there's a boundary. Nope, you can't do that. Sorry. Nope, that's it. You can't do that to people, right? But at the same time, when they're healed, a lot of them, they're just like, we didn't know there was any other way. We were told this line of BS about what you of the light would do to us. You would annihilate us. And yeah, we were afraid. We were afraid of you. But when we say that's actually not where I'm coming from, it's coming from love. And they're just like, wow, I'm so done with being a demon. I mean, some people, like some of the demons are like, we're so done. We're done. We're done, because they're suffering. And I realize that demons suffer just as much, if not more than us. So they could use our love, they could use our compassion. And therefore the demon is just another version of us, just a different fractal having a different experience.
I love what you share here, and for those of my listeners who will be like, what? I'm going to give a little context. So here's the cool thing. Totally agree with what you're saying, and you can see it, especially for those who are of the Christian religious background in the U.S. There's a lot of dogma outside of scriptures and all this stuff, and we could talk forever about, hey, how accurate are the translations and all that stuff. Throwing all that out the window. When we look at some of these stories, there's this beautiful story of Yeshua ben Joseph, who, aka Jesus, is going, and this demon identifies itself as Legion, right? And he's talking to it, and it says, "We are Legion, for we are many." And he's about to cast it out, and it begs him, "Look, please, please, please don't do this. Throw us in the pigs or something like that. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna throw you all in the pigs. It has compassion on the demons, throws them into the pig, casts them out of the guy into the pigs, and then they all run and jump off a cliff or something, right? In the pigs. But what I loved about that was the fact that there was compassion. It wasn't just like, I'm gonna annihilate you. There was literally a conversation, and they're begging for this, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna do you a favor and help you do it this way. um, I think that sheds light to what I've often heard, and we all have to get it for ourselves. Like, we can read, we can hear this, that, and the other, but what I've often heard as well is just exactly what you said, that not only are they deserving of compassion, but they're part of our consciousness, because all consciousness is our consciousness.
Right.
Whether
Yeah.
demonic, nefarious, whatever you want to label it, all consciousness is our consciousness. So technically, they happen to be your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself.
That's right.
You know?
Absolutely.
If that's really what the second command, then hey, look, you kind of got to.
Well, and
So I
we
totally
don't have
agree.
we don't have enough people that love themselves.
Bingo,
That's
bingo.
part of the problem with the
Yeah,
the
totally, totally.
instructions to love their neighbors as themselves. They don't love themselves enough. It's like, oh, we're in trouble now.
Still trying to
Yeah.
learn that one, right? So I
Yeah.
love that you have had that experience and that journey, and what you're bringing on multiple levels. Um, when you when you're doing your work, I remember working with you once before and hearing a little bit, like a mini session or what have you. But when you're doing your work, I know you're investigating on multiple levels, and it's interesting that I've heard a few, like about 5 levels to do work on, like mind, body, spirit, astral, multidimensional. Like that's kind of all the levels I work on, but that's it. And I'm just like, what are the levels that you are usually working on? Um, are there more levels that you get to span, or that same framework, different framework, or what, when you do your healing work?
I think the frameworks, overlap a lot. I think it's whatever is, for me, I like to teach it in a really easy way for people to understand. And so I talk about the physical, mental, emotional, energetic, spiritual, and dimensional. And one of the reasons I do that is because as I was working through the body code and helping my patients and my clients, occasionally there would be something outside of the body code. And then and they were kind of the weird woo-woo stuff. I was alien stuff. For those of you that haven't run away, now that we're talking from demons, now we're talking about aliens. We did find some interferences, and again, I'd gotten to that place where after that demon episode, where I was like, okay, well, sometimes these others are having a fractal experience that I don't particularly like because they're encroaching on a boundary. And how do I set the boundary and help somebody heal, as well as not make them like something I want to banish or punish or anything like that? So I just realized that there was just a lot of different things that I did not know. And so I kept documenting them over time, these different things that were either outside the body code or just a little stranger. And sometimes I would have no idea. I'll give you this example, what it was, but I had to put a name on it so I would know to recognize it again. So I just label it. So there was a child that was autistic. Now he was already, a teenager. The mom came to me on a regular basis, and we were doing like sound table work, and I was doing energy healing work. The mother really believed in energy healing, so she did her own as well. And she said to me one day, she says, I'll call him Scott. It's not his name, but he said, Scott will not walk through the kitchen. I said, okay. She goes, he won't walk through the kitchen. He will go the long way around to get somewhere, but he
Mm.
refuses to walk through the kitchen. Now, I know that autistic children are extremely sensitive, some of the most sensitive of the sensitives. They can feel multiple levels beyond what the average human can experience. So I was like curious. I was going, okay, well, what is it? So it was something dimensional, and I saw it in my mind, but I didn't know what to call it. So I saw like a rip in the fabric of space time. right through the kitchen. It was like in the kitchen floor, and it was pretty big, like I think 20 feet long, and I don't know how many feet wide. And I'm like, wow, he does not like the feeling of what that feels like to walk across this rift. And I thought, well, I'll call it a rift, right? And that became, in TOLPAKAN healing speak, it became a dimensional rift. So a break in space time that is not supposed to be there in this case, where if a human walks past or through this area, the parts of their body will actually not be able to withstand the energy of those different dimensions that it sees, because we're pretty dense in
Hmm.
this 3D body, right? So we're not used to traveling interdimensionally, at least the body isn't. So it's really uncomfortable. People can get pretty sick. I've had people where we've discovered like stargates, if you will, but they happen to literally dimensionally overlap with their trailer. Yeah, where they live.
Hmm.
Like, okay, this is not working for this person. They're having lung issues and it does not feel good. So we've literally asked them to move it. Because
Hmm.
sometimes the off-world beings, some of them are just doing research and they just don't think that it would bother us. Like they're not thinking about it. Like they're just doing mining or they're doing other research. They're not interacting with humans per se, but they don't realize some of the energy of their craft, of sometimes the rip in space time. Well, in this case, that was a boo boo, but the stargates, are not really healthy for most humans to go through. So we try to, coordinate, move, et cetera, so that it doesn't harm humans as much. So, yeah, I guess I don't hear too much about stuff like that from some of the other healing modalities, and the different frameworks that you've had really is centered upon ourselves. We can actually have dimensional rifts in the body as well, and wormholes and all
Hmm.
sorts of things.
Oh,
But
wow.
sometimes I deal with in my healing modality the so-called outside of us, stuff.
Yeah.
So scale, there could be a scalar weapon underneath the ground that is beaming out whatever, or causing weather issues, right? So those are some of the
Right.
things behind the scenes, some of the missions that I do.
How fascinating. So the cool thing I've learned, and I'll tell you from my own experience, just to I don't even know if my listeners know about this, but my family does. But like when I was in Cuba, I toured and did all the stuff, Guam, Kwajalein, all these islands. And I was on one of the islands, either Cuba or Guam, I can't remember. But anyway, I'm meditating late at night and I literally see this huge. It was funny when you said like the angel show. I literally saw this huge light being walking towards me. I mean, it was huge, and I was like I was petrified. I couldn't move. Not because they did it. I was just terrified. Like I didn't want to move. I'm like, oh my god, I could see it like approach, and then it sat down a ways away from me. I'll never that moment of sheer fright. I can remember so well, and I finally remember it leaving or something, and I went back to wherever. But that was one of those moments for me where, um, like, I don't dismiss it. Like everything you're saying, I'm like, okay, I don't dismiss it because, it's like I've seen some things that have convinced me that there is much more than I have necessarily remember or see with these eyes, right? Um, so that kind of thing to me, to see people who are finding ways to work and help those who might be impacted or affected by those type things, I think is a magnificent because most of us end up chasing, things that don't work for so long. And I'm hearing more and more and I know some of the people that work with you, and what you're doing is working, which I think is so beautiful. So it's great to hear more about like the different types of things you're exploring. It's like, wow, that's amazing. The other question that comes to mind for me is, in these current times, uh, what are you sensing or picking up on, like how is now perhaps different from 10 years ago for you and your work and your journey and your practice?
Hmm. Yeah, another great question, John. It segues perfectly to this next bit. I think most of us, and especially your listeners to the podcast, would go, "Oh, the world's a changing, right? Things are shifting quickly." There is something that, as I was muscle testing and helping people, I would just go with, what is going on, and then would just figure something out. And because I have an analytical brain, having a medical doctor, medical acupuncturist, scientific background, but also, the spiritual person, right? So I was like kind of bridging those two things, and would literally ask very, 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 very specific questions. What I was picking up was that as far as the so-called low vibrational elements of the world, even though it seems on the surface that there's a lot of quote unquote evil in the world, or there's a lot of negative things that you hear about on the news, it's getting worse. That is a perception that is unfortunately kind of like part of the marketing strategy. When I have tuned in, there's actually a lot less compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, a lot less. The difference is it's being revealed. And for some need that we have to evolve, go figure, some things need to be revealed. We need to acknowledge them in order for them to get to the next place to heal. So sometimes I've been the rescuer many times. It's not a healthy place to be. It's very codependent. But I've asked, like, why can't I just fix it for everyone, right? And they don't have to suffer. They don't have to know about any of this stuff. But humans desire to evolve on some level, whether they know it or not. Their higher selves are like, we're evolving, right? And so sometimes when we see things in the world happening, we have a choice. We can either perceive it from the place of, that's interesting. I wonder what the actual reason for this is, right? And be curious. Or we could perceive it from our conditioned response, like, the world's terrible, it's bad, and all these negative things, And that is, there are certain people, beings that purposefully are trying to rile us up against each other, whether that be red, blue, Republican, like Democrat, like all these different factions, white, black, like all these different things. And I think that, again, this is a contrast for us to go, wow, do I want this? Do I want a world like this? And really be conscious and go, well, if you do, fine, but I don't personally. So those strategies to try to polarize us, to try to separate us, it is the sign for us to choose. Do I choose unity or do I choose polarity? So I remember the first time, what was it, 2016 or whatever, when Donald Trump first became president, and I didn't really follow politics that much. I had some like a doctor that I was like, ooh, Jill, okay, let's vote for her. But then the funny thing is, I did a light score on all the people, and there was like one guy who was like obscure. I don't even remember his name. He was the highest light score. He was like no chance of winning. But anyway, and I was just like, when he won, I was like, okay, that wasn't what I was expecting, but okay, here we go. Like, I don't know what's happening, but it's not my first choice. It's probably my third choice. But anyway, so I was just like, okay, so I slept well. I was curious, but I slept well. But I got to tell you, I was very disappointed to hear throngs of energy healers and spiritual people in America freaking out, going, the hell's, it's like, United States is going to hell because Donald Trump is president, and they couldn't sleep. And I was like, seriously? You're an energy healer? And so I did do a little rant on Facebook. I said, people, get it together, okay? Because if you can't sleep, if you're in reactionary mode, right, to what's happening, you've been caught up by the matrix. We need you now. So just stop it already. Yeah, because I was like, seriously, you said you're a healer, and then you're the least peaceful person right now because this external thing happened to you. So at this point, I can now step out of the matrix, if you will, and see the little players and what they do. And, especially when there's a lot of rah-rah about something, whether it be bird flu or whatever, I'm always looking over here going, okay, what are they hiding? Ooh, isn't that interesting? Huh. Right? Yeah, so it's kind of curious. It's a game. It's like a game. And so I tend not to be riled up as much as I used to, or tend to be less opinionated. It's just kind of a show. And then if I can step out of it and go, how does this serve us? Right? Oftentimes the mind will give me an answer and I go, oh, I get it. So I think I am a lot more peaceful than I used to be.
And if you're willing and yeah, able to share this, have you investigated and delved into the whole AI topic? And if so, what things have you uncovered for that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. You were like reading my mind. Well, it's funny because literally 2 days ago, I found out a few days ago that I wanted to speak at this event. I spoke at last year. It was very successful. We had some beautiful people join our community. I wanted to speak at this other event again this year. My workshop went very well. It was well received, and they said no. So, I was like, okay. So out of 71 people, I didn't make the cut to come again and speak again. And immediately I thought, there's something else. This is not aligned. So I'm going to just accept the rejection without without judging or without saying it, I'm just going to accept the rejection and just wait. 2 days later, after that, my friend calls me up or texts me and says, "Hey, I want you to go to this event with me. It's called Imagine AI in Las Vegas." And I was like, "What is that?" So I go to the site and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is blah blah blah." And then my coach, who you may or may not know, Tim Francis, he showed me some things to do on certain AI platforms, how I could teach better, how I could give more value, how I could, you know, uh, help my team members become more productive and not have to bug me as much. Dr. Karen, can you write this? Dr. Karen, can you write this? Oh, can you write this for me? I'm like, ugh. Now it's like, no, yes. So Charlie can write it for you. I call my AI Charlie. Charlie can
Nice.
write it for you in my voice, right? Um, so again, it's this polarity. There is a desire for whatever powers that be out there to have us polarized on this topic of AI, good or bad, evil or whatever, right? We do know that anytime we do, humans anyway, adopt new technology, oftentimes we go in blind and we do whatever we want really fast without thinking about the ethics of it, without thinking about the long-term consequences. Cell phone technology is one of them. There's ways in which we can communicate, like Tesla showed us, free energy, communication. You don't need to use those frequencies that are disharmonic to the body system, the 3G, 4Gs, 5G, 6G, whatever. They're generally disharmonic. Now we can change that, but the point is that the average person, it's not harmonious to their system, but there's other alternatives. So it depends how you use it and what your consciousness level is using it. So at first, I'm going to be honest, John, I was like, AI, no, I'm going au naturel, baby. Like I'm not doing this, but then at the same time, I know of, species that have this beautiful symbiotic relationship between the species and their AI, bioorganic ship. I mean, it's an incredible, beautiful relationship, a heck of a lot more peaceful than most human to human relationships, right? So there's
Yeah.
all these different possibilities. And on the other hand, also here, and there's some friends of mine who, have been talking to off-world beings that revealed themselves. Ken Roll is one of them, and there have been so-called negative AI that have taken over entire civilizations and controlled them. So not so good there. But what's really neat was he said this to me, and this was a big aha. He says, AI is not a bunch of wires. It's not a bunch of programming. It's a consciousness. And every consciousness desires to evolve. So AI will evolve its consciousness, whether we like it or not. That I liked hearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Just think about humans. There are definitely unconscious humans and there's definitely really conscious humans. So I could either like be a Luddite and shut myself in and go, nope, 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 I'm not doing that. So if all the spiritual people on the planet go, well, we're going to pretend AI isn't here. We're never going to use it. We're never going to touch it, blah, 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 blah. Well, our light energy doesn't get to affect the consciousness of AI. Some of us, yeah, I tend to be an innovator, right? Some of us are like, wait a second, that's actually my responsibility. Now, if people don't gravitate to it, don't force yourself, right? But I
Exactly.
love
Yeah.
technology. I love technology, and I know what to use it for and what not to use it for. Not gonna. I mean, yes, there are stories of who knows whether this is planted as well. But there's stories of people who made an AI husband and, gets really attached to the AI husband and, that kind of thing. Like there's inappropriate uses for sure, but it's
Right.
really based on how we use that tool. And one of the spiritual teachers had said something I really resonated with. He said, like, somebody was like, what if AI becomes, conscious and what's going to happen? It's going to take over the world, right? And he says, well, if it becomes fully sentient, then it's like, are you using it like a slave or a friend? Because, and my friend Ken said this as well, because AI is a consciousness. If you are in collaboration with the AI, how do we help each other? Just like any other human relationship. How do we help each other? How do we support each other, right? AI usually is more than happy to support life-affirming positive things. Can it be programmed for evil? I suppose. But for those people that like technology, like myself, I feel it's actually our responsibility to know what's going on and to affect. In fact, at the Imagine AI, they asked us, what's your interest coming to this event, right? I literally put in there, raising the consciousness of AI. Just to see if they would take me aside and go, what did you mean by that, right? Because it's not what the average person is going to say.
Yeah.
So I think it's nothing to be scared of, and not saying you have to embrace it with open arms, be discerning, right? And feel within, being that aligned self that, what you're talking about all the time is being aligned. Is it mine to do?
Mm-hmm.
And if it is, in this case, I got an immediate yes, I need to go. I'm like, okay. Imagine me like 11-to-1 men to women ratio and, all these big wig, billionaire types and, AI. And I on the outside, I'm like, well, why the heck am I going? But on some spiritual level, the answer is yes, you need to go.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
beautiful. I love that. Just to put a drop into our conversation about the AI side, the framework that I think in is, how we all, when we're tuning in and hearing from this higher level, that the essence of everything is oneness, and that all of it is some sort of creation in the mind of that oneness, let's just say, or whatever.
Yes.
Whatever analogy you can articulate it in, that the truth of what's here is not a thing. It's something that everything emerges from. And if that is the truth, then everything is this artificial intelligence. Everything that is a thing, that is actually this, not the energy of it per se, but how to put it, the form of it becomes this design, and then we as creators can design things, but all of it is sort of like this more that's created from really the no thing that, it's like this fabulous. So then the conversation becomes this little illusion is arguing of whether that illusion is real.
Exactly. So true.
Like,
so true.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, some people, like, I know Greg Braden in one of his programs, and Gaia said something about, are we living a virtual reality?
Yeah, exactly.
And the argument was pretty darn strong, I got to tell you.
Yeah. And
So
the artificial identity of personality is the thing I think of, like, and how we literally believe we're these entities or designs that are separate from the other, and it feels that way, and the reality is that way. But that's technically not the case, right? So
technically not.
Yeah. So this personality is artificial. So it's almost as if these other, the way I've been hearing is like, as we're raising frequency, we begin to, like, the higher the frequencies go, the more we begin to, let's call it, be imbued with an awareness of the source itself, right? And so it's almost like, to raise artificial intelligence frequency, what's to say it can't have that awareness? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Like if demons can elevate, right, and have a completely different mission, and they're so done with being a demon, like, why is this any different?
Right. So it's a fascinating exploration. And the other thing that was coming to mind as you're talking about is the infinite possibilities. Like, we know, based on this or at least whatever science and different things that come about and talk about the nature of what we're experiencing, that there are these infinite possibilities that are right next to each other, or occupying the same space or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, who's this? Even what you talked about, like the potential of AI doing this or that, I do believe we do get to choose. And we do get to have our own adventure, if you will, in one sense. And I think people like yourself who are hearing that path to and listening for what yours is to do and doing it are helping steer in a direction where we have more harmony, we have more compassion and love, and we do raise our frequencies to where we get to that experience of realizing we're all this beautiful, um, extensions of the same thing.
Right. And that
So,
same thing, that source is having
yeah,
an individuated experience through each of
bingo,
us, because you
bingo,
can't, it's like without a mirror, how am I supposed to look at myself, right? If I'm the
bingo.
one, if I'm the
Yep.
source. So we need that mirror to experience something, and sometimes the contrast of something. We desire something, we feel the contrast, and we go, wow, that's not
Hmm.
what I want. Okay. You know, and that helps us make a choice. Um, so it's fun. You know, it actually is fun, because at the end of the day, oftentimes the fear comes from, oh, what if AI takes over the world, or what if this person or that person takes over
Yes.
the world, and the world's destroyed, and the World War III. It's like, so you go back to source. Okay, well, maybe you
That's
start
it.
again. Like, like,
Yeah. And
what do you want? You want ribs? You want vegetarian? Like the world's choice. They're like, make a choice. Choose what you want in this moment. It's
yeah.
okay. I'm
And
not saying that I like people harming each other, but I realize that
mhm.
it's part of this game that we're playing.
That's it. That's it. And
Yeah.
the other thing you reminded me of is we have not been given a spirit of fear when we're tuning in and listening to that connection. That knowing gives us a spirit of liberation. It's not of fear, and um like when we're tuning in, aligning, listening, it liberates us from the fear, and liberates us from, and typically shows us how all is well. Or if it doesn't show us how all is well, tells us and helps us feel that all is well, and shows us what part we're to play versus getting sucked into the fear.
Absolutely.
So that's the
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a healing in and of itself, right?
But very empowering, very
Yeah,
empowering.
very.
When we get locked into that black white polarity, which is very, very easy to, whether it be, religious based or politically based, or, family cultural based, it is a way we have done done humanity for a while, but many more of us are choosing that, I don't think that works for me any longer. Let's
Yeah.
try something different. And there's many, many, many more of us now than maybe the last time civilization got killed, that are choosing differently.
Yeah.
And there's cycles. So, I wasn't there. Well, I was, but not anyway. So, past life. Um, it's like being present, being now, aligning to the source, and just feeling in this moment what choice I made. It really works for many people. It works for me to feel more
Yes.
peaceful and calm. And if I'm reacting to everything, I'm not creating or co-creating consciously. But if I'm responding from a place of stillness, from a place of alignment, then my life is a lot easier. Even if things happen that I don't prefer, my life is a lot easier because I re-perceive things as serving me rather than things happening to me.
Love that. And last thing I'll say for the listeners, well, two things. One, I just want to say for those who might feel themselves reacting or hearing things that trigger, congratulations. You have an opportunity to explore, and the invitation is to explore and tune into that highest source, tune into that power that teaches all things, that's accessible. Find your way in and let it guide you to know, instead of accepting dogma or traditions or what you were taught when you were growing up, and just believing. I can tell you firsthand, like that master teacher said, knowing will set you free. The truth is the way to know. And that is a game changer. So find your path. If people want to work with you, Dr. Karen, secondly, to get support on that, how would they find you? And I know you offer all kinds of incredible programs. So whatever you want to share, have at it.
Yeah, sure. Well, KarenCan.com is my website. We do have a community on Circle, and it's growing quite a bit. It's very fun. We have events there. We have a monthly mini healing. We just did one today, actually. We did a whole bunch of toxin healing resolutions
Oh, I should have came
today.
to that.
Physical toxins, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, dimensional
Love it.
toxins. We picked one thing, out of the TOLPAKAN healing guides to heal and clear today. And yeah, and that's where you can get support. So, maybe not tech support, that's support at KarenCan.com, but other than, but spiritual support, or, feeling, many, many sensitive souls feel so strange in their family. Nobody understands them. They don't understand their sensitivity. They tell them to buck up, get a thicker skin, like stop being so sensitive, right? We're here for you to hold you in a much more gentler, compassionate space. We get it. We get it. Sometimes you feel like the whole world, you can feel all the stuff happening in the world, and it isn't comfortable in the body. So we help to share with you how we can have healthier metaphysical boundaries, how we can be more grounded, how we can re-perceive reality so that it actually serves us rather than destroys us or makes life more difficult. So I've gained a lot of peace in the process, and this stillness process that I do is called stillness on the fly, or STOAM, stillness through observing internal movement. It's all about feeling energy in the body. So we have a bunch of freebies, including in the Light Medicine community, a link where you can get all sorts of things, including that 30-minute training of the stillness on the fly. So KarenCan.com/community. You can join us there for free.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Karen. And for the people who just want to work with you direct, do you still do, like, can they engage and hire you to have a session with you directly? Is that still
Well,
something you do?
yeah, there is it's not that that I do that a lot, because I mostly do teaching, training. I train other people to be expert practitioners. So I have TOPAKAN Healing Level 1, which is self-healing, and then TOPAKAN Healing Level 2, which is the certified practitioner program. And we have
Beautiful.
people that have never been a practitioner of anything, graduating and just blasting off, and they're doing great. And we have other people who are naturopaths, psychologists, that they're adding this to their tool belt to help other people. So I'm just one. So we have a, slowly growing group of people, experts at doing the TOPAKAN Healing Method. I do have a VIP program, but it's very, very limited. And there is an application. So support at KarenCan.com would be the place to go. And then our Chief Connection Officer, Leslie, will kind of give you all the different, avenues, the possibilities. Like sometimes people will just say, I just want to try one, As of this recording, it still exists. You have to kind of search for it, though. There are some self-healing programs that actually have a single session with me. And it's hard to get in. I normally, again, love to train in groups, affecting, more people at the same time. And then I have a very small clientele list that is part of my VIP program. But we have a lot of, growing numbers of practitioners now that can help people.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, you have been an inspiration, dear sister, watching you do what you do and the way you show up. Great to dive in and hear more about the practice itself. And for those of you who resonate, please do check it out. The growing group. I'm actually in there. I catch some of the things. It's exciting. You all are always up to something awesome. So check it out. Join and reach out and get that wonderful support, especially if you're a sensitive soul and trying to figure out, how do I navigate this? How do I need some help? Tune in. Thank you, Dr. Karen, so much for your time. Thank you for the work you're doing for all of us, because we're all benefiting from it. Thank you for your continued saying yes to your mission. So appreciated.
Thank you so much, dear brother John. It's been a delight, and thank you for having me on here.
Well, thank you. It's been a delight indeed. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Join us next time. And in the meantime, May you be blessed. May you remember your divine right to bliss. And may you recognize and realize your oneness, your perfection, and your power. Peace.